Dramatic moments in South Texas tonight. A tornado ripping across a highway, just one of several reported tornadoes touching down across East Texas and Louisiana. Homes and buildings damaged, hundreds of thousands without power in the Northeast. And we're tracking a new threat tonight. Tonight, the horror in Houston. We're learning new details about that disturbing case of an 8-year-old boy allegedly beaten to death and his 3 brothers abandoned and living with his remains for nearly a year. Officials describe the case as one of the more difficult they've ever worked. Tonight, we're on the ground in Houston. The major new developments in the investigation into that deadly movie set shooting in Santa Fe. Authorities detail the timeline of what happened. The DA insists criminal charges have not been ruled out against anyone, including Baldwin. Authorities have recovered 3 guns and 500 rounds of ammunition, suspected live rounds among them. The sheriff is also investigating reports of crew members using live ammunition for target practice before filming. Tonight, Democrats are inching closer to an infrastructure deal after a new proposal to tax billionaires gains traction. But late reporting on paid family leave being yanked from the bill is leading to major backlash tonight. So how does this move forward? Rachel Scott is at Capitol Hill for us tonight. That new warning from the Pentagon, a top official testifying to Congress that the Afghan terror group ISIS-K could have the ability to attack the United States within 6 months. You may know her from hit shows like Charmed. Tonight, actress Alyssa Milano is talking about why she's never been shy about speaking up for what she believes in. Why is it so important to you to use your platform, your influence in this way?
Well, I've been an activist since I was 15 years old, and to me, and how I've always felt about it, is there's no reason to be a celebrity, to be famous, if you're not going to use your voice for those that have no voice.
And oh, the places Drew goes. Meet the man who has seen it all, quite literally, all 197 countries. It's the travel inspiration we all need on this hump day.
I think travel is the best education you can have. I learned way more going to places, going to Sudan and sitting down with the Bedouins in front of these beautiful pyramids and talking about their lives. That's something you can't learn in a classroom.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Lindsay Davis. Thank you so much for streaming with us. We're tracking major new developments in that deadly movie set shooting and reported tornadoes in the South tonight. But we begin with the new details that we are learning about that gruesome case of alleged child abandonment and murder out of Houston. The lead investigator and the sheriff both describe it as one of the more difficult cases that they've ever worked. An 8-year-old boy allegedly murdered in his home, all while his 3 brothers were left alone, abandoned for months with their brother's dead body in sight. Their mother and her boyfriend allegedly leaving them to fend for themselves. Neighbors tell ABC News there were red flags at the apartment complex. Some say that they helped the children with food and charging their phones. Tonight, the children's mother is under arrest along with her boyfriend. He now faces murder charges. There are, of course, questions about how this could all happen and go on for months. On this busy Wednesday night, Zachary Quiche leads us off from Houston.
Tonight, a mother and her boyfriend are facing several criminal charges after the body of her 8-year-old son was found in their apartment. Police were alerted Sunday afternoon when her 15-year-old son called for help, saying his brother has been dead for a year.
In my long time of working homicides, this one's up there. You know, this one affected us.
Brian Coulter, the boyfriend, is charged with first-degree murder, and Gloria Williams, the children's mother, is accused of tampering with evidence and injury to a child by omission.
On Sunday, October 24th, 2021, at about 3:15 p.m., our deputies received a phone call from a 15-year-old child who advised that his brother had been dead for a year.
Today, a judge setting Coulter's bond at $1 million and Williams at $900,000.
I have looked at the alleged probable cause facts for this murder charge. I find that there is sufficient probable cause for the case to go forward.
Police say the 8-year-old died of multiple blunt force injuries, adding his dry skeletal remains were found in plain view.
We saw soiled carpet, no furniture at all, no bedding, no blankets, nothing that we could see, and it appeared to have roaches and flies.
The 3 children, ages 7, 9, and 15, were allegedly left alone for months with their brother's rotting corpse.
They were just straightforward, but, at the same time, though, you have that 1,000-yard stare, that that blankness in the eyes.
Authorities say that some of the children may be special needs and that they never reached out for help because they were scared.
I believe it was absolute fear. I think that the beatings were consistent and mainly, involving the younger children. He was basically hoping or relying on his mother to at some point contact law enforcement and advise of his deceased brother in the house.
The surviving kids were extremely malnourished and showed signs of physical abuse. Police believe Coulter assaulted the 9-year-old, whose fractured jaw requires surgery.
They were very thin. One of the first things I asked them what they are they hungry, and they said they were. And the first thing, I don't know if it was because we're cops or what, but they wanted donuts.
Local authorities tonight pointing the finger at Williams and Coulter.
They're both abusers. He's an abuser physically, and she's an abuser by omission.
The neighbor says he didn't know what was going on across the hall, but there were red flags.
Summertime, you will see the flies flying around all over, and we came across.
It's been the flies coming out of the drain have been worse over the last year.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah, but we don't think about anything beside probably dirty garbage, probably got coming from the garbage, but we are not sure where they were coming from.
He says several neighbors alerted apartment management about the foul odor. I understand the management company called your apartment. And what did they ask you?
Yeah, they called me and they want to know, have you seen those guys, your next door neighbor? I said, no. I said, can you go and knock on that door? I did, but nobody answered, so that's happened a few times.
Another neighbor saying the 15-year-old would come charge his phone at their apartment, but would only accept certain foods.
He would not eat anything that you made. You had to buy it. Like, it had to be a salad that was closed from the store or a pizza.
This man, a neighbor who tried to help, spoke with our affiliate, KTRK.
Phone, I asked him, is everything all right? He was like, yes, sir. So then I asked him, were you going somewhere? He said, probably, and then he walked away. And about 7 minutes later, the police pulled up.
Lindsay, just a heartbreaking story. It's had an undeniable impact on this neighborhood, and the folks that I've talked to say they wish they would have known. They wish they could have just done more to help. But the bottom line is that these youngsters were failed, not just by their immediate families, but by the school system, by Child Protective Services, and by apartment management. Lindsay?
Zachary, thank you. For more on this, we bring in Harris County Sheriff Ed Gonzalez. Sheriff, thank you so much for your time tonight. Of course, you see a lot of tough stuff in your line of work. Ever seen anything like this?
No, nothing quite like this. Previous to being sheriff, at one point in my professional career, I was a homicide detective and responded to many horrific scenes, and this one is really up there in terms of what we saw that day. It's just really heartbreaking and really shocks the conscience.
Do we understand why mom and the boyfriend were living apart from the kids, and then why they were initially brought in for questioning and then released?
That's part of what we still want to find out is the why. We know, based on the phone call we received from the teenager, that his mother and the boyfriend had not lived with them for many months, and that his brother had been in another part of the apartment that was deceased. And so it's all very troubling. We still don't know why. I think they just wanted to live apart from the kids, and we're neglecting them, and it's just a very sad situation all around.
Do we know what prompted the 15-year-old to ultimately call police? Because neighbors have said that from time to time he would ask if he could get his phone charged, and so it seems that he had access to call for help. Why wait nearly a year after one of his siblings had been deceased?
I think first and foremost was fear. I think there was some awareness that their younger brother had been murdered, and they were fearful. Obviously, the abandonment as well. These children have been through a lot of trauma over the last year, which was all very difficult. And then I think just trusting and believing that the adults were going to call and report it and notify the authorities. And apparently, obviously, that never happened. And so I think just the trauma and everything of getting to them finally just couldn't take it anymore and finally made that call. And I'm so glad that they did.
And of course, teachers can be one line of defense when domestic abuse is suspected, but these children were reportedly not in school. What can you tell us about how they managed to slip through the cracks?
Yeah, I think one of the challenges that we saw when the pandemic was really, erupting, I think, is that many of the social systems that were in place before, like schools and teachers and all that, was kind of removed from many, and we were afraid that things like this could happen, not to this extent, but obviously with them not being in school, obviously because they weren't enrolled, and also just because the impacts of the pandemic and what have you, there really wasn't anyone around. And obviously, ultimately, the adults and that were supposed to be in their life protecting them failed them, as well as many others along the way.
And how about those adults as far as neighbors are concerned who didn't alert authorities? Some encountered these children. We spoke to one person who said that there was a bad odor from the hall. Is this something that you've seen before? Do you have any thoughts about why they may have stayed silent?
Really not sure. Most of them would see the teenager, the 15-year-old, and would assist them with food from time to time, or allowing them to charge the phone. The apartment unit had been without electricity for about 3 weeks here recently. But we don't know why it never rose to the level of really inquiring more, really probing and making a phone call to authorities. And that's what we ask the public, is if they see something, to say something. There was a strong odor for a while. One of the neighbors reported, smelling something, and according to them, they had reported to management. But I don't know if any follow-up was done at all. And I know, again, from past experience, it's definitely an odor that stays with you. That's very, it's just a hard stench. And so really not sure what happened and why nobody was able to report that.
And, of course, there are now criminal charges. But what can you tell us about what comes next in the investigation? What are you still hoping to learn?
Yeah, well, we still want to learn more about the why, understanding more of the timeline, firming that up, and as well as if anybody had any encounters with the children in any way, or the mother or the boyfriend, the mother's boyfriend, then we'd like to know more about that as well. This is an ongoing investigation. The potential is there for additional charges. We could always enhance charges as well. And so we're going to make sure that we leave no stone unturned, and we hope that this never happens to another child again. It really has impacted our community, and we must continue to be the champions and advocates for our children, our most precious asset in our communities.
Are mom and boyfriend cooperating?
Just very little. They really didn't shed a whole light on everything, and so we'll just have to look to other options and other avenues to see what else we could find out. But at this point, they're in custody, and they've been charged, and we hope that eventually that these children can all see justice, and this little angel that passed away violently, that he may rest in peace.
And speaking of the children, what can you share about their mental state and how they're doing at this time, where they are?
Yeah, well, they're in the custody of our Children Protective Services. They were malnourished. They had signs of physical abuse. One of the younger children had a very serious injury that we believe was caused by the boyfriend as well, that had perhaps struck him. And so he's going to need some type of surgery as well. So, again, it just pains me to think he was without medical attention and pain medication and those type of things like anybody else would need in something so painful. But otherwise, they seem like wonderful young kids, all things considered. A little shaken. You see sometimes that blank stare that comes when somebody's been through a lot of trauma. But we hope that they eventually get the love, support, and care that they so much need and deserve, that every child does. And one of the first things that when our investigators asked them what they might want at that immediate moment, comfort food or anything, the first thing they asked was donuts. We don't know if it's because we're law enforcement, but we made sure that they had donuts.
Oh, that is good to hear. Sheriff Ed Gonzalez, we thank you so much for your time. All the best in this investigation.
Thank you, Lindsay. My pleasure.
Now to that powerful nor'easter that became a bomb cyclone overnight. Record-breaking low pressure in Nantucket, Massachusetts, and hurricane-force winds, some gusts up to 94 miles per hour. And tonight, the new cross-country storm producing reported tornadoes before barreling east. Phil Lipoff reports.
Tonight, that powerful storm system spawning multiple tornadoes in Texas. Oh my gosh.
Power flashes sparking as this twister crosses Interstate 10 in Orange, Texas. Watch closely. You can see a vehicle flying through the air. Law enforcement telling ABC this is the vehicle. Thankfully, no one was inside. Officials believe the storm damaged up to 100 homes. That system now moving east, where that record-breaking nor'easter had wind gusts near 100 miles an hour in parts of New England. It's 4 o'clock here on the South Shore, and even as this storm is winding down, you can see the wind is still fierce, and the seawall is having a hard time containing the waves.
A transformer blew.
More than 600,000 losing power.
I just saw a bunch of sparks outside of my window, a huge bang.
In Cohasset, the press box at this high school football field blown over. The entire Northeast affected. In Morris Township, New Jersey, a falling tree limb hit 2 cars, killing one driver, injuring the other. We're just after high tide, and you can see the wind and the waves are still whipping at this hour, and that is only going to delay getting the power back on for so many. We're told those line crews can't begin their work until the wind comes below 35 miles an hour, and that may not happen till well after midnight. Lindsay?
Phil, thank you. And now let's bring in our senior meteorologist, Rob Marciano, who is tracking it all tonight. Good evening to you, Rob.
Hi, Lindsay. That storm exiting, and the next storm, which hit California as a twofold storm, is now hitting the Gulf Coast. We've had several tornadoes touch down across southeast Texas and southwest Louisiana. Now that line is pushing through New Orleans, Biloxi, Gulfport, and eventually Mobile, weakening somewhat overnight. But the next several hours where that tornado watch is up, it's going to be dicey. We'll recharge the battery here come tomorrow morning when this thing gets to western Florida, Tampa, Jacksonville. You're going to be in it. Could see some tornadoes there. Certainly some damaging winds, a possibility. Savannah, Charleston by tomorrow afternoon. And then the parent low, which is kind of over the Tennessee Valley, that then picks up the front, picks up some moisture and invigorates it and combines things over D.C., Baltimore, Philly, New York by tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening. We'll not only see some thunderstorms, but potentially more in the way of heavy rain. And as you know, this area is saturated, so flooding is a possibility in through Friday night and Saturday morning in some of the biggest cities along I-95. This very busy weather pattern continues as we wrap up October. Lindsay, back over to you.
Yet another wallop. Rob, our thanks to you.
You bet.
Now to the latest on the pandemic. As a vaccine for children 5 to 11 years old moves closer to authorization, and with some 70 million Americans currently eligible for booster shots, the CDC now says a 4th shot may be needed for immunocompromised people 6 months after a booster. ABC's Whit Johnson has the latest.
Just as booster shot availability expands to 70 million Americans across the country, tonight word of a potential 4th shot for one vulnerable group. The CDC now allowing people who are moderately and severely immunocompromised, about 3% of the population, to get another shot at least 6 months after completing their 3rd mRNA vaccine dose.
This 4th shot is essentially equivalent to a booster for immunocompromised people, but does not mean that the general public is looking at a 4th shot anytime soon.
It comes as preparations are underway to roll out the first Pfizer shots for 5 to 11-year-olds, expected to get the green light next week. In Santa Clara, California, this vaccination site all set up for young kids.
Good afternoon, Hyatt Pharmacy.
And across the country, pharmacies and doctors are busy fielding calls from parents.
We have to think of it almost like a completely separate, completely different vaccine when we're treating children.
The doses for younger children will be 1/3 of the amount given to adults and will come in special pediatric vials with smaller needles and orange caps. Pfizer's study found that 2 shots were nearly 91% effective in preventing symptomatic COVID. Still, many parents are hesitant. Only 1/3 saying they will get their 5 to 11-year-olds vaccinated right away. Some want to see more research.
The guilt would be tremendous. If I was risking something and he had a reaction to, that's something that I have to take responsibility for.
But health officials say the vaccine is safe for kids, and the real risk is COVID.
I think there's urgency because we're seeing disease in children. We've seen deaths in children.
Many parents certainly hoping to eliminate or at least limit that with these shots. Whit Johnson joins us now. Whit, the CDC has now given a clear timeline of when shots for young children could become available. What do we know?
Lindsay, the CDC advisory panel announced that they will meet next Tuesday and they will vote on Pfizer vaccine recommendations in kids 5 to 11 years old. The CDC director will then have the final say, and we could see the first shots going into arms for those younger children as early as next Wednesday. Lindsay?
Whit, our thanks to you. Now to your money. The holidays, of course, are quickly approaching, and so many things that we want or even need to buy are becoming more expensive. The president is trying to ease the shipping crisis, but the backlogs at some ports are only getting worse. ABC's Gio Benitez now on what you should buy right away because supplies are low and what you can wait on in order to try to get a better deal.
Prices are going up for almost everything, from everyday products to food at the grocery store. The supply chain crisis boosting prices for meat, poultry, fish, and eggs by over 10% from last year. America facing its costliest Thanksgiving ever. The price per pound of turkey, $1.36 today, about 70% more than 2 years ago. Other prices soaring too, clothing and electronics all up. Even Christmas trees will cost more.
The cost of fuel has gone up, the cost of fertilizer has gone up, the cost of labor has also gone up.
The bottleneck at U.S. ports not easing up. Just 2 weeks ago, the president vowing to get American ports running 24/7. But the backlog of ships has only grown. Images showing empty loading areas at night at both the Port of Los Angeles and Long Beach. No trucks there to move the goods out.
We are addressing and attacking the supply chain issues, even with the increased volume, which is the root cause here, at every front.
As the holiday season approaches, experts say we'll be paying full price and there will be fewer discounts.
The pandemic has thrown a wrench in everything, and the supply chain issues have been a real problem for retailers. So you're seeing manufacturing issues, you're seeing delivery issues, and that's causing fewer deals.
Experts say buy items that are in low supply now, like game consoles, clothes, and phones. But you could wait and get better deals closer to the holidays for Chromebooks, smartwatches, and outdoor gear, because there's more of that in stock. And Lindsay, consumers spent a lot less during the pandemic. Now they have more to spend. And that's why experts believe that this holiday shopping season could shatter records, but that's only if the products actually arrive. Lindsay?
Gio, thank you. And now to the new warning from the Pentagon on China. America's top general is calling China's recent hypersonic missile test close to a Sputnik moment. Here's ABC's chief global affairs correspondent, Martha Raddatz.
It was a test launch that alarmed even seasoned China watchers. A nuclear-capable hypersonic weapon, a weapon which, for now, the U.S. would be unable to detect, let alone defeat. And today, for the first time, the Pentagon's top military leader acknowledging the seriousness of the test in an interview with Bloomberg TV.
What we saw was a very significant event of a test of a hypersonic weapon system, and it is very concerning. I don't know if it's quite a Sputnik moment, but I think it's very close to that.
Sputnik was the Soviet satellite launched in 1957 that gave the Soviets an advantage in the space race with the U.S. General Milley saying of China, this is an enormous change in the character of war.
Martha Raddatz joins us now. Meanwhile, Martha, we also heard a troubling warning from a top Pentagon official about that threat from terror groups in Afghanistan. What was his assessment?
Exactly. A high-ranking Pentagon official told a Senate committee that ISIS in Afghanistan could be able to launch an attack on the West in as little as 6 months, and al-Qaeda could do the same within a matter of years. Before the withdrawal from Afghanistan, President Biden said al-Qaeda was basically gone from Afghanistan and there were no longer terrorist threats emanating from that part of the world. How things have changed, Lindsay.
Certainly have. Martha Raddatz, our thanks to you. Next, to new developments in Washington on President Biden's domestic agenda as he prepares to leave for Europe. Late today, word that a popular part of the bill, paid family and medical leave, may be out. The debate over how to pay for the bill still remains up in the air. Here's ABC's Rachel Scott.
As Democrats scramble to make a deal before President Biden heads out to Europe, tonight, word his plan for paid family and medical leave will likely be out of the final bill. It's something the president has promoted for months.
We're one of the few industrial countries in the world that does not have paid leave.
so that when you stay home to help that person, to take care of that person, you're still getting your pay.
But West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin, who has the power to kill the entire bill, is firmly opposed.
To expand social programs when you have trust funds that aren't solvent, they're going insolvent, I can't explain that. It doesn't make sense to me. I just can't do it.
Progressives outraged.
How much of a setback would that be?
Oh, if paid leave's not in the bill, it would be devastating. It'd be devastating for working women and working parents.
If we go down to zero paid family leave, that's not okay. That's unjust to the people.
But Manchin is dug in. He's also made it clear he's not on board with a plan to pay for the massive package by taxing billionaires on assets like their stock market gains.
I don't like it. I don't like the connotation that we're targeting different people.
But Manchin does support a plan to impose a 15% minimum tax for corporations, reporting at least $1 billion in profit. Right now, some of those corporations pay no income taxes at all. The other holdout senator, Kyrsten Sinema, likes that plan too, but she still refuses to say what else she supports.
Senator Sinema, are you supportive of the billionaire's tax? Where do you stand on paid family leave? Expanding Medicare? Are you on making progress?
Making progress, her only answer there. Rachel Scott joins us now from Capitol Hill. Rachel, President Biden had been hoping for some kind of deal before he headed off to Europe tomorrow. Any chance at this point that that might still happen?
Well, Democrats, Lindsay, are making some very tough decisions about what stays in this bill, what comes out. That is a sign that they are inching closer to a deal. The president knows that he cannot afford to lose a single vote in the Senate, so he's invited those key lawmakers to the White House, Senators Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema there last night. Senator Bernie Sanders there today. But the bottom line here is that if paid family leave does come out of this final package, that is going to be a bitter pill for progressives to swallow. It could end up being a red line for them, Lindsay.
Rachel Scott, our thanks to you. And when we come back, the U.S. Marshals accused of holding a mother and baby at gunpoint during a raid, but turns out they were at the wrong house. Our conversation with Alyssa Milano about her journey and activism. But up next, the disturbing new details from that deadly incident on a movie set. Investigators say they believe a live bullet was used in the gun that killed the cinematographer. Stay with us for what else we learned.
This is what being live is all about. This is ABC News Live.
All right, we're gonna move back. Let's move back.
We're surrounded by people squeezing into this bomb shelter.
We're on an urgent delivery run.
Not afraid to go there.
So my question, Mr. President, what are you so afraid of?
Breaking news, live events.
This is the moment. Liftoff.
Streaming straight to you, anytime, anywhere.
You just met one friend right here.
You're watching ABC News Live. Thanks for streaming with us.
All right, here we go. You ready? Let's do it.
Yes, it's the show America wants and America needs right now.
This is What Would You Do? Let's go. How are you?
Can I hug you?
Yes.
So what will you be watching Saturdays on ABC News Live?
What would you do?
Hey, I guess I just found out.
The What Would You Do Marathon, 12 to 6 Eastern, every Saturday on ABC News Live.
My favorite show.
Admit it. These days, what you need to know
seems to change just about every day.
What is it that you really want to know, need to know?
To help you not just get through your day,
but to make the most of it. Feel smarter.
Feel better.
Feel happier.
Well, how about a third hour of Good Morning America?
GMA 3, what you need to know. Now streaming on ABC News Live.
It's all about you.
This is American history, a violent white mob, a brutal attack, 300 Black Americans killed right here in America. Now, it is time to uncover Tulsa's buried truth, the gripping story brought to light in a new podcast from ABC News, available now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app.
Sex, gambling, fraud, betrayal, and murder. Cutthroat Inc., the podcast. A family on a mission to find their son. A year's worth of conversations with the killer. Cutthroat Inc. Subscribe for free now on your favorite podcast app. A Assault on the Capitol, the ABC News original, exclusively on Hulu, now streaming. Now with so much on the line, more Americans are turning to David Muir and ABC's World News Tonight than any other program across all of television.
U.S. Marshals in Florida are facing some tough questions tonight. A Florida mom says video shows marshals outside of her door with guns drawn, searching for a murder suspect. She was holding her 3-month-old at the time. She claims that police thought a suspect had run into her home, but he was found in another apartment on the same floor. All options are on the table at this point. Those were the words of the Santa Fe district attorney when asked if Alec Baldwin could face criminal charges. This as the FBI now takes the lead on figuring out how this fatal tragedy happened. ABC's Kaylee Hartung is in New Mexico for us.
Tonight, authorities confirming that the Colt .45 revolver handed to actor Alec Baldwin on this New Mexico movie set was loaded with a bullet, a single shot fired from the prop gun, killing cinematographer Halyna Hutchins, then piercing director Joel Souza's shoulder.
We believe that we have in our possession the firearm that was fired by Mr. Baldwin. This is the firearm we believe discharged the bullet. The actual lead projectile that was fired has been recovered from the shoulder of Mr. Souza.
The sheriff saying investigators seized roughly 500 rounds of ammunition from the set. Analysis now underway to determine if more bullets are among the blanks and dummies.
We suspect that there was other live rounds that were found on the set. I won't comment further on how they got there.
And tonight, a new affidavit raising more questions about possible breaches of safety protocol on set. Assistant Director Dave Halls and armorer Hannah Gutierrez-Reed identified by officials as the 2 crew members who handled the weapon before Baldwin. In that affidavit, Halls explaining that when Hannah showed him the firearm before continuing rehearsal, he could only remember seeing 3 rounds. He advised he should have checked all of them, but didn't, and couldn't recall if Gutierrez-Reed had spun the drum. He then handed the gun to Baldwin and indicated it was safe to use. Gutierrez-Reed telling investigators that on the day of the incident, she checked the dummies and ensured they were not hot rounds. When the crew broke for lunch, the guns were secured in a safe, but the ammo was not.
I think there was some complacency on this set, and I think there are some safety issues that need to be addressed by the industry.
Actor Ian Hudson was playing an outlaw in the film, telling TMZ he feared for his safety when filming a shootout scene.
When they shot at me, I actually did feel the blanks hitting my face and my body.
Today, the district attorney not yet ready to file charges or rule out anyone, including Baldwin, saying she doesn't make rash decisions and she can't yet say who was negligent.
Does Alec Baldwin himself face the potential of criminal charges?
All options are on the table at this point. I'm not commenting on charges, whether they will be filed or not, or on whom. No one has been ruled out at this point.
No one is ruled out. Kaylee Hartung joins us now. Kaylee, what else was said in the press conference about evidence recovered at the scene?
Well, Lindsay, most notably, 500 rounds of ammunition were recovered at the scene of that movie set. And the sheriff and the district attorney explaining that this is going to be a long investigation. There were about 100 people on that set, many interviews left to be done, but the 16 people who were in close proximity to the shooting have given their statements to police. And Lindsay, the headline out of this presser today was that there was, in fact, a live round, a bullet that came out of that gun when it fired in Alec Baldwin's hands, killing Halyna Hutchins, and then lodging itself in the shoulder of director Joel Souza. The sheriff saying he suspects that bullet was the only live round in that 6-shooter, and the assistant director saying after that gun was fired, that he then saw at least 4 dummy casings in that gun. And now the sheriff says they are doing additional forensic testing on those 500 rounds of ammunition they found, as well as what was in that prop gun that fired in Alec Baldwin's hands, to determine if those additional rounds are dummies, blanks, or perhaps more bullets, because the sheriff says he does suspect there are more live rounds that were found and recovered on that movie set. Lindsay.
Really interesting on that update. Kaylee, thanks so much. Still ahead here on Prime, the disturbing claims of women being injected at nightclubs in the UK, then becoming disoriented. And we follow one man determined to visit every single country on the planet. We're with him on his second to last nation. Can you guess which country will be his last? And why there are fewer preschoolers than there have been in years. We take a look by the numbers. But first, our tweet of the day. May the memory of each and every life cut short 3 years ago at the Tree of Life Synagogue be a blessing.
an extraordinary story.
A computer salesman was supposed to report to prison to begin a 17-year sentence.
They let him turn himself into jail with no escort.
No one thought he would run.
How do you evade capture for 25 years? How do you do that?
Now, join the search, following the U.S. Marshals as they uncover new leads in a global manhunt. Can you help catch this fugitive?
Have you seen this man?
Have you seen this man?
Have you seen this man? Listen and join the all-new hunt wherever you get your podcast.
Ho, ho, ho! It's back.
Now, a holiday message from Oprah.
'Tis the season for favorite things.
Yes, this Monday and Tuesday on GMA.
We're going to kick off the holidays with some of the perfect gifts to give.
And tell them, Oprah.
Tori's got incredible savings only for GMA viewers. It's my favorite time of year, and in celebration of the 25th anniversary, we have the biggest list ever.
Starting Monday, only on
Good Morning, America!
Right now, with so much at stake, Sunday mornings, this is the place. Taking on all the tough questions. Straightforward reporting. No spin, no hype, no bull. See why Sunday mornings, more and more Americans are now turning first to ABC's This Week with George Stephanopoulos.
Welcome to This Week. Let's do this!
When you wake up in the morning, when you wake up in the morning, darling, I'll be by your side. I'll be there by your side. I'll be everything you wanted. I'll be there by your side. If you need a light to shine it, hold up your hand, let the stars shoot again, let the light shine in through the dark.
Good morning, America.
In time, spring will turn to fall.
From the global resources of ABC News. From morning through daytime, evening, late night, 24/7. The race against time. Climate crisis, saving tomorrow. What can we do now? The groundbreaking reports start Monday on ABC's Good Morning America.
Welcome back, everyone. As we anticipate the likely approval of COVID vaccines for younger children, we also note that the full impact of this pandemic on school kids is still coming into focus. Tonight, we take a look at an alarming new report about the steep drop in preschool enrollment in 2020 by the numbers. In 2020, preschool attendance hit a 25-year low, according to recent census data. Only 40% of American children between the ages of 3 and 4 actually went to pre-K that year. That's down 54% in 2019. Many nursery schools shuttered for good, and enrollment nationwide plunged 25% during the pandemic, with an even steeper drop of 35% for the children of working mothers, at least in part because of the lack of in-person options, according to experts. There's growing evidence of the importance of early education, and this pandemic-fueled learning loss could be profound. For example, preschool can close the achievement gap by more than 50% as kids begin grade school. That's according to American Psychological Association. And we still have lots to get to here on Prime tonight. The 12-year-old attacked by a croc speaks out, and the new words in the dictionary that we already know. But first, to look at our top trending stories on abcnews.com.
It's an extraordinary story.
A computer salesman was supposed to report to prison to begin a 17-year sentence.
They let him turn himself into jail with no escort.
No one thought he would run.
How do you evade capture for 25 years? How do you do that?
Now, join the search, following the U.S. Marshals as they uncover new leads in a global manhunt. Can you help catch this fugitive?
Have you seen this man?
Have you seen this man?
Have you seen this man? Listen and join the all-new hunt wherever you get your podcast.
Friday, GMA's taking you to the scariest places in America. Are you ready for this? Hold on for GMA's Halloween, Friday.
I risked my life. If I was caught, they would have put a bullet in my head.
That would have been one of the most deadly acts of domestic terrorism ever in the United States.
He put himself in jeopardy for us.
begin.
This is the testimony of Elizabeth Holmes,
the Stanford dropout who appeared poised to change the world but didn't.
Her fall from grace was spectacular.
Elizabeth is finally going to trial.
This case will probably go down in Silicon Valley history.
But to this day, Elizabeth maintains her innocence. We'll take you inside the courtroom. If history is any indication, Elizabeth Holmes is not going down without a fight. Follow The Dropout, Elizabeth Holmes on Trial, wherever you get your podcasts.
Preparations are underway to roll out the first Pfizer shots for 5 to 11-year-olds, expected to get the green light next week. In Santa Clara, California, this vaccination site all set up for young kids.
Good afternoon, Hyatt Pharmacy.
And across the country, pharmacies and doctors are busy fielding calls from parents.
We have to think of it almost like a completely separate, completely different vaccine when we're treating children.
The doses for younger children will be 1/3 of the amount given to adults and will come in special pediatric vials with smaller needles and orange caps. Pfizer's study found that 2 shots were nearly 91% effective in preventing symptomatic COVID.
A John Deere worker on strike was killed today in Illinois. The 56-year-old, a 15-year employee at the John Deere plant's part in Moline. He was struck in a traffic accident while walking to the picket line.
More than 10,000 John Deere workers have been on strike for approximately 2 weeks. The workers are seeking higher wages, better retirement benefits, and more after working through the COVID-19 pandemic.
Police across the UK are investigating reports of women being drugged with needles while out at bars or clubs. Several women across England believe they were victims to this kind of spiking, saying they blacked out and woke up the next day with what appeared to be puncture wounds on their bodies. Starting next week, student groups across the UK are organizing boycotts of nightclubs and pubs, calling the movement Girls' Night In, advocating that more needs to be done to protect women.
So many people have come forward having been spiked and sharing their stories with us. And we really hope that we can make a moment out of this support and really get some bigger change out of it.
During a pretrial hearing, a judge ruling that the men shot by Kyle Rittenhouse in August last year won't be referred to as victims during the trial, but instead can potentially be referred to as rioters or looters. Rittenhouse is charged with felony homicide related to the shooting and killing of 2 people and felony attempted homicide for allegedly wounding 1 other person during protests that followed the police shooting of Jacob Blake.
12-year-old Charlie Buell is speaking out after a crocodile pulled him off a staircase near a dock, dragging him underwater.
There was nothing I could do. Like, it could do whatever it wanted. It was so strong.
Charlie was playing hide and seek on a family vacation this summer when he hit a these set of stairs near Lagoon. Moments later, he says he felt something grab onto his leg.
Like someone was just like digging their nails into your arm.
Nearby guests and hotel employees at Club Med in Cancun, Mexico, rushed to Charlie's aid as he struggled against the nearly 13-foot-long reptile. Charlie was treated at a local hospital. He's now able to walk and run. And while Charlie has a few months before being fully recovered, he says he has a new appreciation for his cold-blooded acquaintance.
For Halloween, me and 2 of my friends are building this giant crocodile that all 3 of us are going to fit in, and it's 16 feet long.
The Merriam-Webster Dictionary keeping up with the times and the way we communicate, adding a whopping 455 new words to the dictionary today. Merriam-Webster not shying away from adding those abbreviations we use to text, from TBH, to be honest, to FTW for the win. The word dadbod is finally being recognized, as is the appliance loved by so many, the air fryer.
Tonight, we welcome actress and activist Alyssa Milano. You know her from hit shows like Who's the Boss and Charmed, and also from her humanitarian work and activism on issues ranging from the #MeToo movement to healthcare, gun control, and voting rights. She's now out with a new book, Sorry, Not Sorry. Alyssa Milano, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much for having me.
So you recently got arrested at a voting rights protest in Washington, D.C., which you tweeted about. What was that like? And on some level, is it something that you wanted to happen to perhaps amplify your message?
Well, I mean, you know, I am of the generation where I watched Jane Fonda use her platform to impact positive change, especially in the last, you know, couple of years, 3 or 4 years with her Fire Drill Fridays. So I definitely knew that there was going to be a possibility, you know, and I thought that it was important to take the fight right to the White House. The Freedom to Vote Act is incredibly important. That's why I got arrested. States have introduced 425 bills making it harder for people to vote. 13 Republican-led states have passed 33 laws aimed at making it more difficult to vote. And of course, the burden lies heavily on those who are in underserved communities, Black and brown communities. And I went there to the White House with the understanding that that was something that might happen. We went right up to the White House to demand President Biden uses his power to influence the Senate to pass the Freedom to Vote Act, the John Lewis Voting Advancement Act, and DC statehood as soon as possible.
Yeah, there's often intense backlash, as you know, against celebrities who become activists, and you've certainly defied the stick to performing advice. Why is it so important to you to use your platform, your influence in this way?
Well, I've been an activist since I was 15 years old, and to me, and how I've always felt about it, is there's no reason to be a celebrity, to be famous, if you're not going to use your voice for those that have no voice. So it's important, but also I think there is an element of right-wing propaganda that has dictated the narrative that celebrities are not normal people, that we are the coastal elite. And I could not disagree with that anymore. Most celebrities, most artists that I know that have succeeded in this industry came from nothing and worked really hard to get everything that they have at this point. We pay our taxes just like everyone else. And now, more so than ever before, I feel like everyone has a platform because of social media. And it doesn't matter, you know, if your followers are 3 million people or 250, if it's a large community or your own community. We all need to do and use our voice, everything for every cause that we feel is important.
And I want to take you back in particular to your kiss on the Phil Donahue show with Ryan White. It was your way of sending the message that AIDS could not be transmitted through casual contact. It's a moment that you describe in your book as monumental in your journey as an activist. How so?
Well, I mean, and I say this in the book, every great love story starts with a kiss. And my love story for humanity started with Ryan White. He and I became friends. He asked me to go on TV and kiss him to prove that you couldn't get HIV/AIDS from casual contact. And that was the moment that I realized why I was blessed with the opportunities that I had at such a young age to make television. And I will always be so grateful to him for giving me that gift. And it's something that every time I am in a state or driving someone to the polls or using my voice, I think about Ryan and not only the impact that he had on me, but the incredible impact he had on the country and also the world.
And you also recently testified on Capitol Hill about the Equal Rights Amendment and the impact on your children's future. Let's take a listen.
Thank you.
I want my daughter Bella to grow up knowing she has the same rights as every man in this country. And I want my son Milo and every boy in America to know that too. They deserve a government that cannot treat them differently because of gender.
What rights in particular are you most afraid that Bella and other girls and women may not have in the future?
I am concerned that the perpetual cycle of violence against women will continue if our founding document is not amended to include women. I think the root of sexism and misogyny is because we are not included in the Constitution. Most Americans don't realize that women only have one protection in the Constitution. That's the 19th Amendment. It's the right to vote. The Constitution has been amended 27 times. I feel like we are long past due to adopt the 28th Amendment, which is the ERA, giving women, trans women, and all gender diverse people the same constitutional protections as cisgendered men.
In your book, you also write that activism is at its very heart a powerful expression of patriotism. Can you elaborate on what you mean by that as far as how you equate the two, activism with patriotism?
Yes, I feel as though in order to fight, to create change, you have to love something enough to want to create that change. You have to love something enough to recognize when something needs to be or to evolve or to be either amended when it comes to the Constitution or, dismantled when it comes to things like systemic racism. So I love my country enough to stand up and fight for the things that I know we can aspire to be.
We thank you for using your voice in the way that you do. Lastly, I would just ask, what do you hope that readers will take away from this book and your story?
Well, I started writing the book, and then I got COVID. And I think having COVID transformed how I approached writing the book. And I think the result is a look into my life through these intimate essays. And as I was writing, I realized that really it was important for me for the book to be a timestamp, not only of where we are in the nation, the political upheaval, the social struggle, the division, but I also wanted it to be a timestamp for my life. And my hope was really to leave my kids a snapshot of their lives that exceeded this volatile time, so that they could remember that no matter how hard things got, we got through it together with love, community, and laughter.
It seems like you have achieved that successfully. Alyssa Milano, we thank you so much for talking with us. Sorry, Not Sorry is available wherever books are sold.
Thank you so much.
Have you ever just wanted to leave everything behind and travel the world, plus make some money while doing so? Well, travel influencer Drew Binsky figured out how to do just that and gave ABC's Ashin Singh a front row seat to it all.
We're in Montego Bay, Jamaica, with world traveler Drew Binsky.
If we quote Bob Marley, this is the roots and the rock.
The 30-year-old from Arizona is by no means your typical travel influencer.
I can't wait to show you all the cool places, man.
With an audience of over 8 million, he's about to officially have been to all 197 of the world's countries. And he's one of the only people to have documented it all. As borders begin to open up and pandemic restrictions are beginning to lessen, airlines are reporting expected massive spikes in ticket prices heading into the holiday season, as much as over 70%. With Americans eager to get back out there,
I'm so freaking excited, man.
Drew is blazing a trail, creating content for his millions of followers and sharing tips and tricks to help those able to travel navigate some of the world's more complicated destinations.
I think travel is the best education you can have. I learned way more going to places, going to Sudan and sitting down with the Bedouins in front of these beautiful pyramids and talking about their lives. That's something you can't learn in a classroom.
Most Americans in their lifetime won't even leave the United States. Many won't even leave their home state. What's your message to people back home?
Listen, if you're from the US, you live in one of the biggest countries in the world in terms of size. There are so many places that you can explore in your own backyard. Go to the next state. I'm from Arizona. Driving around Arizona is incredible. There's so many things to see. If you're from the East Coast, even better. You can drive to 15 states within a day's worth of driving. So just go.
We linked with Drew in Jamaica, country 196, as he prepares to wrap up his world tour, to get a flavor of what it's like on the road with a true jet setter.
We're literally off the beaten path.
Drew's first tip, seek out the locals. His guide Matt, a Jamaican content creator, knows all the best hidden gems the island has to offer.
Yeah, man, this is the Jamaican jerk chicken and jerk pork. This is what Jamaica is all about. Like our people, sweet, spicy, and full of flavor.
His second big tip, go off the beaten path. Drew and Matt make it a point to explore spots less traveled in the resort-dominated island.
I just know that there's going to be cool people to meet out here, and I just know that these are the places that I seek to find. And once again, I don't even know where we are. I put my full trust in Matt as a local, but I can tell you that this is going to be a great experience.
It's been a long journey getting to this point for Drew, who started his quest for 197 more than 10 years ago.
On my 8th birthday, my parents gave me a globe as a gift, and it was like a light-up globe. So every night I would spin the globe and kind of memorize all the countries and capitals and dream of visiting every country in the world as a kid. It wasn't really until I studied abroad in college that I got to go overseas and I became addicted.
At what point were you like, I think this could be my job?
I went to North Korea in April 2017. Hey guys, we're here chilling in my hotel room in Pyongyang. I'm one of the last Americans to step foot in North Korea because shortly after I left, we became banned, and we're still banned to this day. It was one of my first videos, and it got 10 million views on Facebook. And right then and there, I was like, okay, I think this is gonna be good.
For Drew, who's been to some of the world's most dangerous nations to complete his journey, he's had to get used to standing out.
It's always part of me as I travel. And going to the Middle East and Muslim-majority countries, people are always like, you're crazy that you're Jewish, and aren't you scared? Not at all. I openly tell people I'm Jewish, and they're very receptive and they're understanding about it. And Judaism has a lot of history in places like Lebanon and Syria and Iran. When you go there, you can go to these synagogues and you can meet with people who are still Jewish, and they tell you stories, and that's really cool.
Even on this tiny island of less than 3 million, everywhere we go, someone always seems to recognize Drew from his videos.
Yeah, I'm subscribed to your YouTube channel.
Oh, thanks.
This man even saying Drew's content inspired him to get to Ghana.
This YouTube culture really opened the world for everybody.
What is Drew doing differently?
Drew is enabling the local aspect of tourism. I mean, you have huge influences that bring in a huge amount of tourists to Jamaica, but not everybody basically gets a touch sometimes.
It gives me the goosebumps, even though it's a million degrees outside right now, and I just feel honored to be in a position where I can inspire people, where I can share the beauty of the world, and I'm gonna keep running with it.
We're running around the globe, and making videos isn't just a passion for Drew. He's had to make a business out of his adventurous lifestyle to keep it afloat.
In 2013, I made like $20,000 a year. 2014, same. All the way up to 2017, and then it pretty much doubled every year since then, and this year will be pretty huge. A lot of people want overnight success, you know? They're like, okay, I'm gonna start making videos now and go viral tomorrow. That's not really how it works.
These days, Drew says he can make almost up to $35,000 a month. Now, he's got a full team spread across 13 different countries, not only to manage partnerships and creating content, but helping plan where Drew goes next.
Do you see the content as the means to making a living, or do you genuinely enjoy storytelling?
Both. I absolutely love telling stories. It's my passion. And so I don't want to stop doing it. I can't stop.
After an incredible 2 days in Jamaica, we leave him at his departure gate. Drew's off and on his way to 197, Saudi Arabia. He's seen it all. And while 197 may be too much for most, his last tip for his audience, it's never too late to just go.
I just strongly feel that you become a more well-rounded and educated person by traveling. And nothing is better than crossing borders, because just new languages, new cultures, new traditions, find that to be extremely valuable.
Kind of gives you the itch to just go somewhere. Our thanks to Drew as well as Ashen. Before we go tonight, the image of the day. This man just ran up 86 floors. That's 1,576 steps to the observatory of the Empire State Building, where he came in first place in the annual race up that building. And now I'm second-guessing my decision to take the elevator up just 3 floors today. That is our show for this hour. Be sure to stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. Thank you so much for streaming with us. Coming up in the next hour, we're staying on top of several things, including the new technology that could save you time as you race through the airport. And our Robin Roberts sits down with the one and only Judge Judy. Stay with us.
I risked my life. I put my family in danger. If I was caught, they would have put a bullet in my head. But it was the right thing to do. It was the only thing to do.
Terror plot foiled in Garden City, Kansas.
That would have been one of the most deadly acts of domestic terrorism ever in the United States.
It would have been Oklahoma City.
He put his family, himself, in jeopardy for us.
From ABC News, morning through daytime, evening, late night, 24/7. The race against time. Climate crisis, saving tomorrow. What can we do now? All this November, starting Monday on ABC's Good Morning America.
When you wake up in the morning, when you wake up in the morning, darling, I'll be by your side. I'll be there by your side. I'll be everything you wanted. I'll be there by your side. If you need a light to shine it, hold up your hand, let the stars shoot again, let the light shine in through the dark.
Good morning, America.
More Americans choose ABC News, America's #1 news source.
Hi there, I'm Lindsay Davis. Thank you so much for streaming with us. We're monitoring several developments here at ABC News at this hour. Parts of the Northeast are cleaning up after a bomb cyclone hit off the coast of southern New England overnight. Hurricane-force gusts were reported across southeast New England, and parts of New York and New Jersey received up to half a foot of rain. Meanwhile, another storm system is wreaking havoc in parts of the Gulf Coast with tornadoes reported near the Texas-Louisiana border. That storm will continue to shift east. From Christmas trees to clothing to food and electronics, prices are going up. This as ports are threatening new fines if containers aren't moved out and cleared out quickly enough. The National Retail Federation says holiday shopping this year could shatter previous records because consumers have a lot of money to spend coming out of the pandemic. But that spending will only take place if their goods get delivered. And Google has implemented a new feature allowing anyone under the age of 18 years old to request that images of them be removed from Google searches. The tech giant says that the users or their parents or guardians can fill out an online form with the URLs of the images and any search pages or terms that may bring them up. The company does point out, however, that removing an image from Google does not mean it is off the internet entirely. Now to the latest on the pandemic. As a vaccine for children 5 to 11 years old moves closer to authorization, and with some 70 million Americans currently eligible for booster shots, the CDC is now saying a fourth shot may be needed for immunocompromised people 6 months after a booster. ABC's Whit Johnson has the latest.
Just as booster shot availability expands to 70 million Americans across the country, tonight word of a potential fourth shot for one vulnerable group. The CDC now allowing people who are moderately and severely immunocompromised, about 3% of the population, to get another shot at least 6 months after completing their third mRNA vaccine dose.
This fourth shot is essentially equivalent to a booster for immunocompromised people, but does not mean that the general public is looking at a fourth shot anytime soon.
It comes as preparations are underway to roll out the first Pfizer shots for 5 to 11-year-olds, expected to get the green light next week. In Santa Clara, California, this vaccination site all set up for young kids.
Good afternoon, Hyatt Pharmacy.
And across the country, pharmacies and doctors are busy fielding calls from parents.
We have to think of it almost like a completely separate, completely different vaccine when we're treating children.
The doses for younger children will be 1/3 of the amount given to adults and will come in special pediatric vials with smaller needles and orange caps. Pfizer's study found that 2 shots were nearly 91% effective in preventing symptomatic COVID. Still, many parents are hesitant. Only 1/3 saying they will get their 5 to 11-year-olds vaccinated right away. Some want to see more research.
The guilt would be tremendous. If I was risking something and he had a reaction to, that's something that I have to take responsibility for.
But health officials say the vaccine is safe for kids, and the real risk is COVID.
I think there's urgency because we're seeing disease in children. We've seen deaths in children.
Our thanks to Whit Johnson. And now to the disturbing new information from the investigation into the fatal shooting on the set of the movie Rust. Investigators say they suspect there was a live bullet, but they still do not know how it made its way onto the set and into that prop gun. ABC's Kaylee Hartung brings us the latest.
Tonight, authorities confirming that the Colt .45 revolver handed to actor Alec Baldwin on this New Mexico movie set was loaded with a bullet, a single shot fired from the prop gun, killing cinematographer Helena Hutchins, then piercing director Joel Souza's shoulder.
We believe that we have in our possession the firearm that was fired by Mr. Baldwin. This is the firearm we believe discharged the bullet. The actual lead projectile that was fired has been recovered from the shoulder of Mr. Souza.
The sheriff saying investigators seized roughly 500 rounds of ammunition from the set. Analysis now underway to determine if more bullets are among the blanks and dummies.
We suspect that there was other live rounds that were found on the set. I won't comment further on how they got there.
And tonight, a new affidavit raising more questions about possible breaches of safety protocol on set. Assistant Director Dave Halls and armorer Hannah Gutierrez-Reed identified by officials as the two crew members who handled the weapon before Baldwin. In that affidavit, Halls explaining that when Hannah showed him the firearm before continuing rehearsal, he could only remember seeing 3 rounds. He advised he should have checked all of them, but didn't, and couldn't recall if Gutierrez-Reed had spun the drum. He then handed the gun to Baldwin and indicated it was safe to use. Gutierrez-Reed telling investigators that on the day of the incident, she checked the dummies and ensured they were not hot rounds. When the crew broke for lunch, the guns were secured in a safe, but the ammo was not.
I think there was some complacency on this set, and I think there are some safety issues that need to be addressed by the industry.
Actor Ian Hudson was playing an outlaw in the film, telling TMZ he feared for his safety when filming a shootout scene.
When they shot at me, I actually did feel the blanks hitting my face and my body.
Today, the district attorney not yet ready to file charges or rule out anyone, including Baldwin, saying she doesn't make rash decisions and she can't yet say who was negligent.
Does Alec Baldwin himself face the potential of criminal charges?
All options are on the table at this point. I'm not commenting on charges, whether they will be filed or not, or on whom. No one has been ruled out at this point.
No one is ruled out. Our thanks to Kaylee Hartung for that. And now to that horrific story out of Houston. The skeletal remains of an 8-year-old boy found in an apartment. His 3 brothers allegedly left there abandoned and living for months with that corpse. Their mother and her boyfriend are now charged. ABC's Zachary Keish reports tonight from Houston.
Tonight, a mother and her boyfriend are facing several criminal charges after the body of her 8-year-old son was found in their apartment. Police were alerted Sunday afternoon when her 15-year-old son called for help, saying his brother has been dead for a year.
In my long time of working homicides, this one's up there. You know, this one affected us.
Brian Coulter, the boyfriend, is charged with first-degree murder, and Gloria Williams, the children's mother, is accused of tampering with evidence and injury to a child by omission.
On Sunday, October 24th, 2021, at about 3:15 p.m., our deputies received a phone call from a 15-year-old child who advised that his brother had been dead for a year.
Today, a judge setting Coulter's bond at $1 million and Williams at $900,000.
I have looked at the alleged probable cause facts for this murder charge. I find that there is sufficient probable cause for the case to go forward.
Police say the 8-year-old died of multiple blunt force injuries, adding his dry skeletal remains were found in plain view.
We saw soiled carpet, no furniture at all. No bedding, no blankets, nothing that we could see. And it appeared to have roaches and flies.
The 3 children, ages 7, 9, and 15, were allegedly left alone for months with their brother's rotting corpse.
They were just straightforward, but, you know, at the same time, though, you have that 1,000-yard stare, you know, that blankness in the eyes.
Authorities say that some of the children may be special needs and that they never reached out for help because they were scared.
I believe it was absolute fear. I think that the beatings were consistent. and mainly, involving the younger children. Was basically hoping or relying on his mother to at some point contact law enforcement and advise of his deceased brother in the house.
Their surviving kids were extremely malnourished and showed signs of physical abuse. Police believe Coulter assaulted the 9-year-old, whose fractured jaw requires surgery.
They were very thin. One of the first things I asked them what are they hungry, and they said they were. And the first thing, I don't know if it was because we're cops or what, but they wanted donuts.
Local authorities tonight pointing the finger at Williams and Coulter.
They're both abusers. He's an abuser physically, and she's an abuser by omission.
A neighbor says he didn't know what was going on across the hall, but there were red flags.
Summertime, you'll see the flies flying around all over, and we came across.
It's been the flies coming out of the drain have been worse over the last year.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah. But, we don't think about anything beside, probably dirty garbage, probably coming from the garbage, but, we are not sure where they were coming from.
He says several neighbors alerted apartment management about the foul odor. I understand the management company called your apartment. And what did they ask you?
Yeah, they called me and they want to know, have you seen those guys? Your next door neighbor? I said, no. I said, can you go and knock on that door? I did, but nobody answered, so that's happened a few times.
Another neighbor saying the 15-year-old would come charge his phone at their apartment, but would only accept certain foods.
He would not eat anything that you made. You had to buy it. Like, it had to be a salad that was closed from the store or a pizza.
This man, a neighbor who tried to help, spoke with our affiliate, KTRK.
Phone, I asked him, is everything all right? He was like, yes, sir. So then I asked him, were you going somewhere? He said, probably. And then he walked away. And about 7 minutes later, the police pulled up.
Just a horrific story. Our thanks to Zachary Quiche for that. And turning now to the courtroom, TV court that is. Judge Judy returns and court is in session. After gracing our television screens for more than 25 years, she's now back with a new courtroom staff and a show streaming on Amazon's IMDb TV. ABC's Robin Roberts visited the set and sat down with the judge.
All rise. Court is back in session for Judge Judy Scheindlin. You talk, I finish. That's the rule. The Queen of the Court returns with Judy Justice. Try to begin with the truth. That's always the easiest thing to begin with.
All parties, please step forward.
And I recently visited the set. I'm gonna go on this side.
Tall people versus short people.
To get a verdict on the new show.
Tell us about this new look and how is it different? We were starting a new adventure. And the color robe was important to me because it says, this is new, this is fresh. The lace collar served me well for 25 years. This is a little more modern.
Also by her side, new courtroom staff, including Judge Judy's granddaughter.
She's my joy.
Law clerk Sarah Rose.
What has your grandmother taught you?
Everything that I know. I mean, just hard work and doing something that matters to you and that makes an impact and leaving a footprint.
For 25 years, Judge Judy reigned supreme over daytime television, presiding over 12,500 cases.
1996. That was the launch of Judge Judy. When did you know it was something special? I think probably within the first 6 months. We had a slow start, but the problem was like a New York roach. You couldn't get rid of it. And slowly, people heard about it and tried it. They want to be in a place where they know right and wrong, where that line is clear. I mean, a 25-year reign, 25 years, number one. That's a gift, and then you have to know when to say. Well, but was it hard to end it? No. I think it wasn't hard. It wasn't hard because I knew I had another gig.
At 79 years young, Judge Judy is making the jump to streaming, releasing Judy Justice on Amazon's IMDb TV.
How is it different from the previous? There's more action in front of the bench. We brought on board a stenographer and a law clerk who I was accustomed to having in family court. I have a wonderful bailiff who I knew, who was my security for the last 4 or 5 years. This new adventure at my age is a new burst of energy for me. You have a company, which is clearly a 21st century company, that had the confidence in me to say, we're going to invest in you. We're going to invest in set and design and marketing in order to bring people in to see your new program. That's a very interesting thing when most people my age are trying to find a nursing home.
Judge Judy is as well known for her decisiveness and quick wit in the courtroom.
Do I look like I need any help from you?
As she is for negotiating her high wattage salary and defending her worth through the years.
What do you say to folks to speak up, to ask for that raise, to know your worth as you have done? Women have to make themselves indispensable at whatever they do. And I don't care whether you are a television personality, a dental hygienist, a dog groomer. If you're the best at what you do, you set the rules. You don't let anybody else define you. And you have to be prepared to walk away. You have to be prepared and never make a threat that you're not prepared to follow through with.
Judge Judy is now ready to embrace her next act, sharing lessons on life and law with a new audience.
You have to be responsible. You're responsible to pick up a piece of litter, but you're more responsible not to drop that piece of litter. My message remains consistent. You got to be the best that you can be. Don't interfere with anybody's life negatively. You know, we live in a rough and tumble place, but within that space, you can be a good citizen. And that's what you really have to demand of everybody. Everybody, to be the best that they can be and be a good citizen.
Our thanks to Robin Roberts for that. We turn now to a deeper look at the Central Intelligence Agency. The CIA plays a critical but often complicated role in the defense of the United States, and directors of the agency hold one of the most difficult jobs in the world, balancing the efforts of intelligence gathering while navigating the politics of the White House. Author Chris Whipple gives readers a behind-the-scenes look into the CIA and those who have led it in his book, The Spy Masters: How the CIA Directors Shape History and the Future. It's now out in paperback. Chris, welcome to the show.
Good to be with you. Thanks for having me.
So, as former spy chief, CIA directors in large part have to be tight-lipped about some of their work. So how difficult was it to get some of them to open up for this book? And what surprised you most that you didn't expect, perhaps, in your reporting?
Well, it was a challenge, but it was really an amazing experience because this is really the unbelievable, untold story of 18 men and 1 woman who have run the world's most powerful intelligence agency since the 1970s, beginning with Richard Helms. And it's almost impossible to overstate the importance of the position. I mean, the CIA director is the person we depend on to prevent another Pearl Harbor, 9/11, or lethal pandemic. And it's really an almost impossible balancing act as well, because on the one hand, the CIA director has to be able to tell the president what he doesn't want to hear. And at the same time, if the director doesn't have the president's ear, then the whole enterprise is for naught.
And a senior official of the CIA stated in your book, "We can overthrow foreign governments, but we have a more difficult time dealing with our own." Explain that challenge for CIA directors in their managing the relationship with the commander-in-chief, especially, as you mentioned, that balancing act of giving them the best information while also staying in their good graces.
Yeah, you know, I tell the story of Richard Helms, who is the quintessential old school CIA director, martini in one hand, cigarette in the other, who had to deal with Lyndon Johnson and Richard Nixon and had to tell LBJ that bombing North Vietnam was having the opposite effect that he intended, which was to try to bring the enemy to the bargaining table. So that's a really difficult job. I think that the current director, Bill Burns, is pretty well equipped to do that. I mean, he's been a consummate diplomat, really in very elite company, maybe, you know, with James Baker and Richard Holbrooke. He's somebody who knows his way around the corridors of power, so that gives him an advantage. And he also has known Joe Biden for a long time. So I think he has a pretty good chance of succeeding.
Right, I imagine that personal relationship can help out as well. Former President Trump famously railed against the deep state during his time in office. What particular challenges did Trump pose to his CIA directors, and how were they able to still do their jobs?
Well, I wrote an op-ed for the Washington Post back then in which I argued that Trump was the unbriefable president. You couldn't brief him because he didn't want to hear anything that he didn't already know. So it was mission impossible, really, for his CIA directors. And of course, his first director, Mike Pompeo, was a sycophant who, and there was no Trump lie that he wasn't happy to repeat, including the notion that Iran was not in compliance with the nuclear agreement, for example. But the damage that Trump did was significant. I mean, he politicized the agency. He, of course, compared them to Nazi Germany just before he started. And so I think that Bill Burns has got his work cut out for him.
The CIA is sometimes more known, of course, for its public failures rather than its private successes. And they faced intense scrutiny for their role before and after 9/11, where you write that, quote, the CIA was no longer just a gatherer of intelligence. It was becoming a killing machine. What do you find that the CIA did right and that they got wrong while combating terrorism in the aftermath of 9/11?
Well, in the immediate aftermath of 9/11, of course, the ultimate mistake was the infamous weapons of mass destruction under George Tenet. They didn't have a case. It ruined, permanently tarnished the reputation of the late Colin Powell after his UN speech. And one of the interesting things, though, is that Bill Burns said in his memoir, our current CIA director, that one of his great regrets was not having done more. It may give Burns real incentive to tell Joe Biden hard truths. I don't envy Bill Burns, let me put it that way. He has an almost, impossible range of threats that he's dealing with, from Iran to North Korea to China to Russia to cyber to pandemics and even global warming.
Chris Whipple, thank you again for your time and insight. The Spy Masters, How the CIA Directors Shape History and the Future, is now out in paperback, available wherever books are sold. And still to come, who's ready to be spooked? Halloween is just around the corner. Is there an abandoned haunted spot near you? We have you covered.
This is what being live is all about. This is ABC News Live.
All right, we're gonna move back. Let's move back. We're surrounded by people squeezing into this bomb shelter.
We're on an urgent delivery run.
Not afraid to go there.
So my question, Mr. President, what are you so afraid of?
Breaking news, live events.
This is the moment.
Streaming straight to you, anytime, anywhere.
You just met one friend right here.
You're watching ABC News Live. Thanks for streaming with us.
This is American history. A violent white mob, a brutal attack, 300 Black Americans killed right here in America. Now, it is time to uncover Tulsa's buried truth. The gripping story brought to light in a new podcast from ABC News. Available now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app.
Ho, ho, ho! It's back.
Now, a holiday message from Oprah.
'Tis the season for favorite things.
Yes, this Monday and Tuesday on GMA.
We're gonna kick off the holidays with some of the perfect gifts to give.
And tell them, Oprah.
Tori's got incredible savings only for GMA viewers. It's my favorite time of year, and in celebration of the 25th anniversary, we have the biggest list ever.
Starting Monday, only on
Good Morning, America!
Sex, gambling, fraud, betrayal, and murder. Cutthroat Inc., the podcast. A family on a mission to find their son. A year's worth of conversations with the killer. Cutthroat Inc. Subscribe for free now on your favorite podcast app. Assault on the Capitol, the ABC News original, exclusively on Hulu. Now streaming. The straightforward facts. ABC News is America's #1 news. Good Morning America, #1 in the morning, 9 years running. World News Tonight with David Muir, #1 in the evening with America's most watched newscast. 2020, the #1 news magazine on Friday nights. Nightline, #1 in late night versus the competition. The View, the #1 daytime talk show. And ABC News Live, #1 in streaming news. ABC News is America's #1 news.
In time, spring will turn to fall.
From the global resources of ABC News. From morning through daytime, evening, late night, 24/7. The race against time. Climate crisis, saving tomorrow. What can we do now? The groundbreaking reports start Monday on ABC's Good Morning America.
I risked my life. I put my family in danger. If I was caught, they would have put a bullet in my head. But it was the right thing to do. It was the only thing to do.
Terror plot foiled in Garden City, Kansas.
That would have been one of the most deadly acts of domestic terrorism ever in the United States. It would have been Oklahoma City.
He put his family, himself in jeopardy for us.
Now, with so much on the line, more Americans are turning to David Muir and ABC's World News Tonight than any other program across all of television.
Welcome back, everyone. We are tracking several international headlines at this hour. Global pressure is mounting on the military in South Sudan a day after a coup. The coup is a result of weeks of mounting tensions between military and civilian leaders over the course and pace of Sudan's moves toward democracy. The United States government has said it condemns the military takeover. A cyber attack targeting gas stations in Iran left multiple drivers on empty with long lines leading to traffic jams. While no group immediately claimed responsibility, the Iranian cybersecurity secretary suggested a foreign country was involved. South America's second largest river is at its lowest level since 1944. The cause? Droughts and lack of rainfall, with climate change only making things worse. The river moves through Brazil, Paraguay, and Argentina before reaching the Atlantic Ocean. The lower water levels have also contributed to a spike in wildfires. To breaking news now, the Chicago Blackhawks player at the center of a sexual assault scandal has revealed himself. Kyle Beach came forward in an interview with TSN in Canada this evening. Beach was drafted by the team in 2008, and the 31-year-old is now playing hockey overseas in Germany. Team president Stan Bowman resigned yesterday after an internal investigation revealed the team did nothing when informed former assistant coach Bradley Aldridge was accused of sexually assaulting a player. The NHL fined the team $2 million. Beach tells TSN tonight, "I've been vindicated, and I can truly begin the healing process." Now to the future of travel. With the holidays just around the corner, some major airlines are streaming the passenger experience with brand new technology that could save you precious time. Here's ABC's Gio Benitez.
What was once a thing only seen in movies like Minority Report is now very close to being a reality. Delta is just days away from launching a first-of-its-kind pilot program in two of America's largest airports. The airline, along with TSA, creating a touchless airport experience, from bag drop to security to boarding.
As effortless as possible.
So this is how it works. We got here to the express bag drop, lower the mask, and it recognized me right away. It tells me to place the bag on the belt. And now what it's doing is it's running my passport number that's in my profile with the customs system, and it's about to print that bag tag. And here we go. The system works a lot like the facial recognition used to unlock your iPhone. Once at the TSA security checkpoint, the only ID you need is your face. A camera takes a photo, and an officer confirms that you match the customs database. And boarding is a lot like the bag drop. You just lower your mask, I match the manifest, and I'm ready to go.
Looks like that will make traveling a bit easier. Our thanks to Gio for that. Halloween, meanwhile, just days away, and there's still plenty of time to get your scare on. All throughout the country, many abandoned sites exist, which legends say are haunted, cursed, or filled with ghosts. So where can you visit these locations? Here's Will Reeve with this report.
Frozen in time is Bodie, once the true California gold rush, now depleted of its riches. Today, nearly 200 eerie structures litter the land, the souls that left taking only what they could carry, leaving the Wild West well preserved. Legend has it visitors who swipe even a rock from town will be forever struck with the curse of Bodie, misfortune and bad luck. More than a mile off the coast of Oregon boasts bruised and battered Terrible Tilly, the lighthouse decommissioned in 1957 after keepers were warned from its stormy past. The rock it stands on dangerous and deadly, once sweeping construction workers out to sea and wrecking a sailing voyage, drowning all 16 on board. Shadowy figures are known to wander inside the empty halls of Waverly Hills Sanatorium. The now abandoned hospital treated thousands of tuberculosis patients. Legend holds the ill that never recovered roam the halls, still looking for a cure. One of Philadelphia's famous abandoned structures, Eastern State Penitentiary, built in 1829, where gangster Al Capone got his first taste of life behind bars, serving 7 months in 1929 on a gun charge. Deserted in 1971, the crumbling cell block's now a historical site and home to a Halloween haven that promises to give thrills and frights no matter day or night.
Our thanks to Will Reeve for that, and that is our show for tonight. Be sure to stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. I'm Lindsay Davis. Thank you so much for streaming with us. Have a great night.
In time.